conflict resolution and people skills, I think are a very interesting point for many aspects for life, but especially with like business. I think I've heard you talk about being in rooms and sometimes you're like, people look at me like I'm the fighter goon. Why do I say anything? But you're like, you know what? I have something to say. I'm going to say it anyway. And I feel like a lot of people don't speak up for themselves out of fear of conflict. But I was just having a conversation with somebody how like one of my business partners, sometimes we just can't come to an agreement. And I'd almost be like, can we just go fight? You know what I mean? Because like that's like when you can't verbally work it out. But in like a boardroom, you can't do that. So you have to have better skills through conflict resolution, but you have to be able to have those tough conversations as a business owner, which I feel like most people don't. Have you felt like being a fighter and learning to find ways to face conflict and just have it out helped you be able to face conflict in a business setting?
Yes, I will say it has. Obviously the ultimate conflict resolution is let's fight about it, which is my favorite thing about non-fighting sports is when they just fight, because that means they were serious. It was really a conflict. Oh, I want that puck. You want that puck? F you. I'm going to get that puck. And they start fighting, which is great. Oh, you can't hit me like that. But, I guess it's a similar mindset. You got to know the difference, I think, in fighting is that you just have to be willing to go anywhere. Wherever it goes is where it goes. You have to kind of recognize when it's a zero-sum game. So as far as conflict resolution, I've read that Never Split the Difference by Voss. I've read that twice now. I read it and then I read it like 8 years later. I read it again. I kind of like what he said, but, I always kind of just in the back of my head try to figure out what I'm willing to settle for and then what's the best outcome for everyone. So I have an interesting story about Josh Koscheck. And you watch the first season of the show. Pretty acidic guy. A lot of people didn't like him in the house. A lot of people did, but a lot of people didn't. A lot of fans didn't like him. He was kind of the heel. But I said something to him and it was like we're training together. And I was like, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z. And he was very blunt and he was like, oh no, that really doesn't benefit me. And I was like, yeah, he's right. That benefits me disproportionately to how much it benefits him, because that's what I need. That's not what he needs. And so we were like, well, what if we did Y, Z, and X? I was like, yes, that benefits us both. Let's do that. And I just thought, yeah, he's not an asshole. He's just brutally honest up front. So the key is to be honest about what you need up front and still find a way to get that out and be likable, right? Because the worst thing you can do is say, I need this, you son of a gun. Well, now this is the negotiation, but you're past the negotiation. You're like, Forrest is an asshole, which is true. I am an asshole, but I hide it. And then I negotiate, and then you don't think I'm an asshole, and you're like, okay, well, he's being fair. So, kind of identify what's the worst outcome for you that you're willing to accept, and then start at the best, and then, hopefully you end up kind of in the middle. Like, hey, this benefits you, this benefits me. And I think that's kind of been my strategy to conflict resolution. And here at the PI, it's scheduling, it's who gets what resource, and it's like, all right, well, how can we divide the resources so that, it does disproportionately favor the people that are on the headline of cards. Like if you come in and want PT is the same time as the world champion that's fighting this week, well, he's getting PT, you're on the wait list. Apologies, So sometimes it's an explanation to people of why they can't get what they get. And I say, look, we have academy programs, we cut fighters. I always give the same speech, and I think it's a great one. Prove me wrong. I've laid down the gauntlet. I have said you're not good enough to be here. Fuck me. Prove me wrong. Go out there, beat up the guys that are in the academy. And you know what? I will come back to you next year and say, hey, you know what? I was wrong. You are good enough to be here. Will you please accept my apology and come back? So like that's the preference of how we kind of do things with the academy, right? And it's a difficult thing. Like you're telling somebody they're not good enough at their dream, or that there's somebody better that deserves to be here more than them. What a horrible to people, So of course they're going to have some animosity towards you just because you're the one that's making the decision.
Did you learn any of that conflict resolution or de-escalation stuff from the police department at all?
I learned a couple things from the police training. The biggest one was that when people start getting louder, just be firm and kind of monotone and firm. And I've actually had like in arguments where I was like escalating my voice and they were escalating theirs. And then I just pulled back, went down to kind of my baseline speech, spoke clearly, directly, exactly like I'm speaking to you now, but not screaming. And they would bring their tone down to match mine. Instead of me going up to match their tone or their emotionality, you come down and you say, hey, very calm, cool. I do understand. And the other thing I don't do is I don't apologize a lot. lot for things that aren't in our control. Like, that's a bad habit I have of always, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, it's no mea culpa, right? And that's something like nothing wrong happened. You just can't get what you want right now. And that's the way the system and, conversely, the world work, right? So I'm not going to personally apologize to you. I feel bad for you. It is unfortunate. I'm going to work with you to see what the best service and best outcome for you we can get is, but it's not your ideal outcome that you really want at this moment, unfortunately. Because when you apologize, you kind of personally say that, oh, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I'm really bad about over apologizing for things. I don't know why. And I think that, I know why. Because I don't want there to be a conflict.
Softens the blow a little bit, right?
Yeah, but it's, again, it softens the blow, but it also devalues your reasoning and the why of the matter. This isn't happening because Forrest is an asshole. This is happening because resources are constrained, and this is where you are, and this is what you're going to have to get.